Hello, today we're going to talk about my executioner build for Orochi, for this magnificent bastard. And we're going to go through the perks, the feats, and anything else that might be important, a little bit of advice here and there. So let's start with the perks. So the interesting thing about Orochi is that all of his perks are based just the offense perks. So he's a total offense guy. Doesn't have any of the defense or assist perks, which, you know, usually not really my kind of playstyle, but it's fine. So we'll go through, you can already see my build here, but I'll explain that later. I'll go through each perk and explain you why I think they are bad or good, or why I chose this build. So Galestorm, upon hero kill, gain 20% movement speed for 10 seconds. Really not a great perk in my opinion. I mean, he's already kind of fast, and I mean, you're going to proc it quite often because getting hero kills is not very difficult. But 20% movement speed for 10 seconds really is not all that exciting. I can see an argument being made for it in Breach, because Breach maps are quite big and you have to get around quickly. But I just don't think it's really worth it in Dominion, and honestly, even in Breach, I think there are just better alternatives, like, for example, Devourer, the next perk. Upon execution, you get an additional 10 health. I think that used to be 15 health, but they nerfed it, if I remember that right. But 10 health doesn't sound like a lot, but as a passive effect, it's really good, and it really plays into the whole execution theme of this build. Especially with the other perks and the feats that I will show you in a minute. So it's a pretty damn good perk. It really helps you stay in the fight a little bit longer, especially combined with the other ones. And it's a base tier perk, so it's pretty good for that. Early Reaper, upon spawn when revived, first attack deals 30% more damage. I think that's absolute fucking garbage. I see no way in which this is a good perk for any hero, honestly. I don't know, maybe who does a lot of them? Maybe Shokoki or something? I don't know. I don't even know what perks he has, but yeah, I don't think that's really good, especially for Orochi. It's not that great. I could see it for other heroes being good, but it's a one-time thing, and if you don't die as often, it's not that great. And if your enemy blocks your heavy or a light or something, whatever you throw out first, it's just going to be, well, neglected. It's just going to be not working the way you want to. So I don't really think it's a perk that's worth it for him, at least. Yeah, so the next perk is Endurance. When gaining a renown level, receive 3% stamina cost reduction. Max 4 gains, obviously, because there are 4 renown levels. So this basically means that the longer your game goes on, the more stamina cost reduction you get. And basically 12% less stamina cost for your attacks and your moves and your cancel, feint, whatever. It's pretty damn good perk. It's really good. It allows you to be more offensive, make more feints, you attack more often before you have to recover, and just stay on the offensive longer. It's not some flashy cool perk, but it does really help you out. So I think it's really worth it. Survival Instinct, when critical health, gain 25% stamina cost reduction. I think critical health is something like 20% health or something. I think I said it in another video, but I'm not actually quite sure what it is anymore. It's not all that great. There is a perk also that I have on my Blackbriar build that when you're in critical health, you take 20% less damage. Was it 20 or 40 or something crazy? It was still good. But this honestly isn't really as good as that one. Because if you have low health, you want to survive, you want to be better in surviving, but Survival Instinct doesn't really do that. I mean, stamina cost reduction, if you're on low health, doesn't really do much for you. Because if you're on very low health, you want to kind of be on the defensive and hope for someone to come help you, or wait for revenge to build up if you're getting ganked. So you just really want to stay on a defensive, and you're not going to throw out all, like 10 attacks when you're getting ganked and being outnumbered 3-1 or something like that, right? So I don't really know. And if you pop revenge, you already have infinite stamina for the duration of revenge, so there's really no point in this. And he's also, even if that was a thing, he's an assassin, so getting ganked already kind of iffy. So yeah, I don't see any use for this perk at all with this hero. It's not good. It's not great, honestly. Crush them upon hero kill. Your next attack deals 30% more damage. I think this actually might be a good perk to use, but just the fact that it's the second highest perk makes it not be very. Well, you'd have to change Headhunter for it, which we'll get to in a second, and that's not even on the same level in my opinion. I mean, it's nice. But again, if your enemy blocks it, blocks your attack or something, it's not going to be great. And if you just land a light attack, 30% more damage on a light attack really is not going to do much for you. So yeah, I still don't think it's a good perk. Crush them, so meh. Headhunter. For each unique player or bot hero executed, increase max health by 4. This is good. This is a great perk. A lot of people, I think a lot of characters, I think Kensa has that too. It's an incredible perk. So basically it means that if you executed every single one of the enemy heroes, you get 16 more max health, which is great because Orochi is an assassin and already doesn't have that high of a base HP in it. And it really helps, especially because it goes together with Devourer because it's executed heroes, and it just plays nicely on this whole executioner build that I had in my mind. And it's really good. It's really good. And yeah, these 3 perks are the ones that I decided was a pain in the ass to get all of them at the same time, because some of the gear just didn't want to show up, by the way. And I know Endurance doesn't really go into this whole executioner thing theme, so I might have, if you want to go like only the executioner build, you can exchange Endurance for Galestorm, I guess, which objectively is a worse thing, but I mean, if you want to, you could do that. So next we're going to look at the feats. I will start with 1. So let's start from the right. Iron Lungs, passive, you can still spam it out of stamina. It's okay. I mean, I don't really see many reasons to use it, because normally when you're out of stamina you don't really want to run away because you open yourself up because you can't block shit. I don't really see much use for it. I mean, it's a tier feat 1, okay? Tier 1 feat, not a tier, okay. Yeah, so it's not all that great, honestly. I wouldn't use it. Kiai, if I pronounce it right, interrupt and deal stamina damage to nearby opponents and allies with a scream. So you basically have a little, if you didn't see, you have a little AoE effect around you that interrupts enemies and makes them be out of stamina. This is good for ganks if you're using it correctly, because your teammates will also get affected by it and you can really fuck them over with it. It can be good in ganks. It's not good in 1v1s, honestly, because enemies will most likely, if they're out of stamina against an Orochi, just turtle or block, and you don't really have much to do against that except for your unblockable, maybe, which is a chain ending thing, so you need to get a light or a heavy in before that, so not really all that great, honestly. I wouldn't use it. For this build I'm using Bounty Hunter, which is a passive, gain health and stamina when you kill another hero. It's really good. It basically, even if you don't execute the enemy, you get health and stamina back, and if you execute the enemy, you get even more back, right? I mean, more health, not stamina, because if you execute someone, you refresh your stamina bar to the full. So yeah, it's a really good perk. It's a tier 1 feat, so it not perk, it's a feat, yeah, tier 1 feat. It's a really good tier 1 feat. I really like it. It's significant. I think it's like something like 25 health or something. It's pretty good. Tier 2, we have Smoke Bomb, gain stealth, speed unlockable, and foes get blind and can't block. It's okay, I guess. Usually enemies will just roll out of it if you're not, and even if you're fighting on a point. Points are in Dominion and Breach are usually big enough for you to just run out of the smoke bomb and just wait for 10 seconds or whatever, or however long that lasts. It's really not all that great. I see people using it constantly and using it wrong. Because you can just fuck over your teammates too with it. It's annoying as shit, and you can't. Well, you are not going to fuck over your teammates with it because you know it doesn't affect your teammates in the same way it does enemies. But it's still something that just doesn't really do much for you and your team, and most enemies will just run out of the smoke bomb, or, you know, the dodge roll. So yeah, that's meh. I don't really think if you use it right, it can be good, but most people just don't. Which you know might say something about an average Orochi player, but that's another topic. Kunai throw dagger deals low damage. It's okay. It's very simple. It's very fast. If you want to annoy your opponent to no end, you go for it. For this build, I'm going with the the third tier 2 feat. Executioner's Respite. It's a passive. When executing an enemy hero, gain an extra amount of health based on the execution's duration. Which is a strange thing to have as a feat, honestly. They changed that a few seasons ago. And basically, this is already a base mechanic. If you didn't know, if your executions are longer, you will get more health back from them. So this basically just improves that effect. And with this feat, perk, if you have and with this whole build, if you have no health left and do a long execution, you're basically almost full healed, which is insane because that means you don't have to go to a healing point. And especially in Breach, it's ridiculous at times if you can get the execution off. That is, I mean, might not be as easy, but especially if you're ganking, your unblockable can be really nice. So you'll probably be able to get it. At least I have been able to get it, especially in ganks. In my games that I've played with Orochi. So yeah, I think this is a great feat. Sorry, I always confuse perk and feats because it's just two things that are very similar, I guess. So yeah, tier 3 is a longbow, which fire a longbow for moderate damage. It's fine. It's okay. The windup is quite long in comparison to the kunai. I don't really usually use it that much because I actually never use these kind of feats because they're just not all that fun for me. But you could do it if you want. Slip through, passive, dodging waves, attack for a short duration. It's okay. I mean, Orochi is usually a hero that already depends on your opponent opening up. If your opponent is very defensive, you're already not going to have a good time with Orochi. So just because of the nature of this character, this is actually quite interesting. But you shouldn't. It's okay, but you should never overuse it. Should never overuse dodge attacks because you will get parried, and Orochi's dodge attacks are not all that great. And you will just eat like 30 damage because of the parry. And it's... if you're using this, just don't overuse it. Sharpen Blades is what I go for usually. Attacks inflict low damage over time. It basically makes enemies bleed. It's a great synergy if you play with someone that's also using like Nobushi or Peacekeeper. A friend of mine is often using Nobushi, so I really like using these kind of feats. But it's just pretty damn good, especially with the 4th feat that I'm going to talk in a minute. And I really like it. It's really, all these 3 are good. It's personal preference, really. These first 2 I would always take these, honestly. Or for at least for this build. But these 3 are really just, you know, kind of a personal thing. Just preference based. So yeah, it's tier 4, we have Nail Bomb, a trap dealing bleed damage in area of effect. Yeah, if you don't let your enemies see you while putting it down, they run in. It does insane damage. It's really, really strong. Especially if you get multiple enemies. I'm usually not all that great with traps though, so nah, I don't really use it. Arrow Storm also exists, an aerial attack that deals medium damage in multiple areas. Can be great for team fights, but you will also hit your teammates. And if they're already on low health, you will kill them, which happened a lot to me. Well, people killed me a lot of times with these kinds of feats, with these aerial attacks. I don't really use it, honestly. It's not really my kind of style. It can be really good if you know how to use it, but I don't, so yeah, not a great thing for me. Fear itself, newer enemies have a lower defensive. This only lasts while you are alive, by the way, and only on timer, obviously. It's really good. It makes your enemies in the surrounding, especially in teamfights, take way more damage. And if you combine this with Sharpened Blade, and I think they nerfed that synergy a while ago, but I mean, it used to be like some crazy numbers, like one heavy attack, like 60 bleed or some shit like that. Some ridiculous amounts, but it's been nerfed. It's a reasonable amount now, but it's still really good. And yeah, I really recommend to try out using both of these in combination. It's really nice. So yeah, that's my build for Orochi. Execution wise, I would just, as always, advise getting like quick execution like this one, clean kill, and then I don't know, some long one like this one, so you can regain health if you want to. Yeah, but a very quick execution. I think this one is a standard one. These are both standard ones, I think. Well, they obviously are. I don't have any other. Okay. Well, I just a quick execution is quite important for this build to have, because of all the execution-based things. If you're in a team fight, enemies that see you executing will usually try to interrupt you, and you can't really depend on your teammates interrupting them from interrupting you. So quick execution is good, especially because of Headhunter and Devour, because they proc by executions, and because of your feats that also proc by execution. Obviously, executions with Bite's not that great with a short execution, but it still does something. So yeah, I think this is probably the best build for Orochi. Maybe a little bit, maybe one or two changes based on personal preference, but I think overall this is probably the best you're going to get out of this. Yeah. If you have any questions, any ideas, any feedback, any critique on this build, then just let me know. And thank you very much for watching. I hope I could help someone with this build. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and goodbye.